They're both working. You could go hands free.
Yeah.
Bring up my fancy hood.
I've seen that before.
Only non-modeling part.
Okay.
What is it? You see what it-
Yeah, just clip it high.
Yep.
No.
You said that. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, you can advance run slides.
Okay.
If you go, is it right? You go that way, and that's the right slide.
Okay.
You go back, you go to the back,
Okay.
it's there.
And it holds them.
Well, it'll go back to the beginning. And if you use this green one, that's your laser pointer. So it's like you can say, look at that. So there you go. Ready to go?
Yep, that makes sense.
You're ready.
Okay. So. My prelude to this is not a Phil Zins production. It's not near as nice as Phil stuff. It came about this because I was stripping rust on the 29 Buick hood. I had done some other sheet metal and I used some Eastwood stuff that was, it was a immersion gel and worked very well, said non-toxic, but it had fumes, it smelled, you wouldn't want to get it in your eye. Everything in my shop turned rusty from it. It was just kind of nasty to work with, and it was $50 a gallon. So that was the reason why I started doing research. My son actually found a video on YouTube and showed it to me where a guy was doing heavy equipment. He was doing it this way. So it's a electrolysis rust removal. They got a definition: method of removing rust, iron oxide by passing a small electrical charge through the rusty metal to stimulate an exchange of ions while the rusty metal is submerged in an electrolyte solution. Vince would like that. So here's on the first slide here is just the equipment. Everything's homemade. Really nothing costs a lot of money. So I made a container out of scrap plywood. I lined it with some 3 mil poly, which is, I'll show you in the next picture. And then there's water and wash soda, anodes, the battery charger, and in this mat to hold the solution is what it's all made out of. So I just used some 4 mil poly I had laying around, and that's what I lined it. So I lined with 4 mil poly. I double it up so that it, you don't poke a hole in it, which I won't tell you why I know that. You can use a bucket. The guy on YouTube used a kiddie pool. So any container that you can hold this electrolyte solution and get it covered by about an inch or so. So that's showing so I lined it. Let's see. I leveled the box to just for ease of getting the hood totally submerged. So that hood fits with about an inch or so around the whole thing. I didn't make it any bigger than I had to. And I did that originally because using that $50 solution, a gallon, I had 3 gallons and I could barely cover something that size with that amount. So I attached the anodes with their sacrificial steel, and in this case I made them out of rebar. And then they're wired together. So I have all 4 anodes wired together. And that's the washing soda, which makes the electrolyte. It's washing soda and water. I think I can talk about it here about it's cheap. I got it on Amazon. It was maybe $6 a box. And I think I use a third of to a half a cup per 5 gallon bucket. So
Brad, why 4 anodes?
well, the more anodes you got pulling around it, the longer they last. And also, it's pulling evenly around the tank. It just works faster.
2 positive, 2 negative, is that what?
No, they're all, I gotta look at here. They're all, one of them's negative. The positive goes to the part.
Okay.
Or the negative. I have to look at the pictures again. Because if you do it one way, you're plating. If you do it the opposite way, it's pulling it off.
Yeah.
I've done this before, and make sure you use washing soda and not baking soda.
Yeah, if you use baking soda, you can use it, but you have to bake the baking soda. I think I actually got it written in here what it does. Washing soda is calcium carbonate. You can use baking soda, calcium bicarbonate, but you need to bake it at 300 degrees and let it dry to convert to calcium carbonate. Be careful of what you use. Table salt makes chlorine gas. Washing soda makes hydrogen gas. Make sure it's done in a well vented area. Now I didn't get too excited. This ran 24 hours a day. I didn't get too excited about the chlorine gas. I did run the fan just because it said that. So. The guy who did the big swimming pool full, he did that outside under a shed, so he was safe there. I doubt you could build enough up. So that's my power supply. That's my rectifier. It's really almost more than what you need, but everybody has one, so it worked fine. I've been looking at a lot of plating stuff, and generally 5 volts and about, it goes by square inch of the panel as to how many amps, but probably 2 or 3 amps is about all I really use. So this one was I use it on 12 volts, seemed to work better than 6 volts. It's a 6 amp charger. The guy in the YouTube video was using a 12 volt 10 amp charger. So this is what I had, so this is what I use. And it does work good, so. So here's the panel, which is it's not this one. It's the opposite side. If you look at that panel, it looks like it got run over by a truck. That one almost was about the same. It was pretty huge, pretty screwed up. Didn't know if I could save it, but I got it to come around. Got to worry about all them louvers getting sleepy and loose, but it came around pretty good. So decided to use it and go ahead and get the rust. You must be free of dirt, grease, and paint. This will not take any paint or anything. It's just going to take the rust off. So you got to degrease it, and then I use paint stripper on it and got all the little bit of extra paint that was on it. It was very comparable to that hood, the other hood side. So dried it, and then I used a paint stripper, and I got it nice and dry. Here's putting the part is in the back. You can see the hood panel down there and submerged in it. You can kind of see how the anodes are starting to foam pretty good. So electrolyte was mixed 1/3 to a 1/2 cup washing soda to 5 gallons of water. Cover the part with electrolyte. Put positive side of the charger to the anodes and negative to the part. That's how it hooks up to pull rust off. What I learned is that the anodes will get full of rust pretty fast. Generally, this was a kind of an experiment for me too, but I figured out you need to clean them every 24 hours to make it work. Because you'll watch the amps go from, it'll take the needle when you start, and by the time I came out the next morning, it's down 2 amps. So. That much short, yeah. So that's when you start out. It was pegged to 6 amps, going full amperage. So I think this is just a good picture of it working, and you can see I started with just one rebar and decided that seems like the more I read, the more that, it's a big area you're pulling from, so more anode you have, it just is going to pull more rust, faster. Let's see. So this is the progress, it was about 24 to 48 hours. So you can see the rust color of the water. And it really was cooking there. I was really happy with what it was doing. You don't know much until you get it out of there, but. Okay, so here's when I pulled it. I pulled it from the vat, rinsed and scrubbed it with a Scotch-Brite, just to help see where it was at and see what get some of the heavier rust scale that was laying there. Found some more grease to get off, and I did that, rinsed it, and then So this is the second. There we go. Second round of immersion, this is where I think I changed the 2 anodes and made sure they were clean. I've got a bead blaster, so it was real simple to pull them and dry them off and throw them in the bead blaster and clean them back up. So I took a picture of them when they're all coated, but they really get coated. And this is round 2, still working with clean anodes. Still working. So, yeah, that's just, you can see it's really, with clean anodes, once you clean them, you can just see the stuff instantly start to swirl and move, all the rust off. So I came out one morning and my battery charger was really hot. It was also, I was worried about it, so I left it in the middle of nowhere in the shop on a table stool. So what I did was I had another one. So I added them and put them together, hooked them up the same. And one pulled 4 amps and one pulled 6 amps. Amps. So they were working together to get the 6 amps, it seemed like. They never got hot again. So that worked well. I think more amperage and more voltage than you really need for this. Everything I've read now is quite a bit lower. Professional platers don't use anywhere near that. Big fan. But the amperage goes by square inches of the piece. So figure that out. So going on to day 3 or 4. I wrote this after I did it. I think I try to remember what I did. So I wasn't sure on the days. But fold again, rinse, and dried. You kind of hit any heavy rust with a strip of this, just to kind of help it along. So I went around it and cleaned and dried. You can see how much better that looks already. And if there was some really stuck rust on there, I just put that strip together. Just a light buzz, just clean it up a little bit on this side. And through the back side. And the back side, the back sides are rustier yet. So pretty similar to this when I started. And that all grease down there. So you can see the improvement in metal already. So let's see. Back in the tank, and the clean anodes. This is kind of about, I guess this is about the time I really learned to really clean everything. 24 hours. And you can really see it working now. Yep, same solution. After that solution, you could use over and over and over. It would really never go bad. Yes.
Rust is iron oxide, right? So
Yep.
Does this process only work on the iron oxide? In other words, the rust? Or
Yes.
It doesn't go after the metal that's an oxide.
No, it won't. It's just like you can strip nickel. You've got to have a different solution. Basically, or zinc, we plate or nickel. The solution has nickel or zinc, whatever you're doing in it. I've actually saw them strip nickel to a brass tube with the electrolyte set up correctly. So it's interesting. I'm just kind of learning this process. Yep. You got 4 anodes in there, and then you got all them wired up. Do you have more than one attachment for the part? No, just one. Yeah, because it's using all that electrolyte as a charge. So one thing I wanted to mention, a friend of mine does a lot of tractor and caterpillar work and stuff, antique stuff, and he's been doing this for years. And he swears by it, like stuff that's threaded and stuff. He said he'll put it in there and leave it, and when he takes it out, you can unscrew it. Yeah, it amazed me, and it didn't smell. And I wonder if you had, does it matter if the part is laying flat like this, can you stand it up if you have it all narrow? Yes. The funny thing I found out about this was the underside was actually cleaning faster than the top side, which seemed good. If you have a really nice wood that
garage were rusted in.
Oh, yeah.
They can be a nightmare.
Yep.
Stuck them in there, that's probably.
Yep.
I wonder if the under versus the old top side has to do with temperature, maybe it's a little warmer underneath.
Well, that is one thing with plating I've learned too, is that, most of those, electrolytes are heated to about 120 degrees. They must work better at a warm temperature. And I didn't do that with this, and we just shot in. Actually, I turned the heat down, evening, so, yep.
Now, as a kid, we used to play pennies
Oh,
using a big dry cell battery, and I forget what the solution was, but, just in a, drinking glass.
Sure.
Small scale, but
yeah, simple solution for nickel is vinegar and Epsom salts. The salts increase the conductivity of the electrolyte, so that's what the washing soda is kind of doing here, increases the conductivity of it, so. So let's see, rinse and scrub. Yes, sir.
getting any kind of slurry in the bottom of it.
Rust. Yeah, just a rust scum film and in the bottom. Not really heavy though. I mean, I probably should have took pictures of the anodes because they would get, let's say if they started that big around, when they came out, they were twice size and covered in rust particles. And it also slowed down the process immensely. Just, you can see the amper drop. This wasn't fully.
Are they stuck on there really tight, or can you just brush them off with a rag?
You could brush some of it off. Yeah, they're not plated. I don't think rust would plate, per se. But it seemed like once especially when they deep blast them, that opens kind of the pores in that iron, and it really seems to make it work. That one photo was really cooking. That was after I deep blasted. Otherwise, I was just wire brushing. But once I did that, that really made it work. You could use any size, any piece, as long as it's iron, that'll run rust. So I just happen to have rebar.
Don't use stainless steel.
No, you don't want to use stainless.
Why is that?
Need a chemist, I forget.
Yeah, there are some chemical reactions you gotta be aware of.
It creates bad.
Yeah. Yeah, same with like salt, you get chlorine gas on, not good. Let's see. Getting down the so this is, let's see. I believe this is, and it was 5 full days in the tank. And what I liked was the metal looked like new metal. And then when you acid etch it or acid rust remove it, it was etched and it had a total different look to it. It's in water and washing soda, you buy that to aid your detergent. So basically it's a wash. You washed it already. So you basically rinse it and dry it. It didn't rust right away, or didn't flash rust on me or anything. And it looked like brand new sheet metal, except for, worker, I used the wire brush on. So I was pretty impressed with it.
You would think there'd be some tiny pits where the rust particles that pull off and that would leave a little pit there, but apparently not.
Oh, yeah, if it had pitted, it was pitted.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and then that was the hardest part, is to get it out of. So that's where I would probably go in with the stripper wheel and aid it a little bit and then throw it back in and let it cook until you don't see any black specks in there anymore. So yeah, there's the tank after pulling the panel out. You can see I just threw out the bucket of stuff I was gonna, when I did the other Eastwood stuff, I have a bunch of hammers and dollies and it surface rusted everything. I mean, in my toolbox, anything that was bare metal just got a coat on it. So it's just nasty. And it smelled horrible in there. And I saved it because and I never got the time to throw those dollies in and do this for them and get them cleaned up. But I figured out it was 50 cents worth of washing solution and some water. So, yeah.
When you did that and you had like the 4 anodes in there, was there like a pattern of the cleanliness near where the anodes were set in relation to the wood?
No, it's just not that I could tell. I mean, they're kind of spotty on how the rust is. It just took longer where there's heavier rust. It seemed to be very even, and that was one of the reasons I did 4 of them. I figured I'd be even all the way around. And plus they last longer when they're in there. So, I mean, I was experimenting. I've never done it up until now. We've talked about rust removal before and used many different methods. And I've done splash aprons for this car and stuff with the other method, and it worked great. It's just kind of nasty. You know, this is, you can wash with this when you're done. So it's just other than rust residue.
You can wash with it. when you're-
Yes. It was, but it's amazing to find a product that's actually it's
Yeah.
non-toxic. I mean,
Very
they say that
non-toxic.
other stuff was non-toxic, but I don't know what. I mean,
Did you, in your research, because it's been many years since I've done it, but the leftovers from this process are not only safe enough to put down your drain, but if you've got pine trees, they love it.
oh, sure. So it's a little acidic,
Apple trees, they'll produce like crazy. They love rust.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
Apple trees?
Apple trees drive rust in nails in the trunk of an apple tree. They'll love it.
so here's all rinsed.
Nine of them.
I rinsed it and blew it dry. No, that went past it. So I dried, I'm sorry. This is dried and I sprayed PPG half years and I think any paint manufacturer is going to tell you if you get a new reproduction fender, it's bare metal. They wanted a minimum of 180 grit scratch for adhesion. Even if you use self-etch or epoxy or whatever you use, and they still want that grit scratch on it. So I went around these within, even 80 works better. I went around these, I think, with 180 and red Scotch-Brite and Scotch-Brite, anything I could get, just to make sure they were super clean before I applied any primers. So, and then this is the same panel in black epoxy primer.
Brad, this is a little bit off the subject, but how did you get those fins nice and straight?
I prayed a lot. If you look at this later, it was like this.
Yeah.
And I laid it on the bench and just started to slowly work it back, because that's what I was worried about. And the only reason we use this hood is that John had a really rusty, that side panel hood was rusty on his car. And I didn't dare weld a patch on the bottom, or with all them louvers, I know everything would have worked out. When you got louvers like this, it's really hard.
But if they've been dented, like they're not parallel anymore, how the hell do you get them parallel?
I just, pliers, I didn't have to shrink anything on this. That was, on another panel, did have a couple sleepies plus the rust. And that's what I was gonna do, would have been to shrink them with a little bit of heat or, something to hold them tight. But it's, it actually came out way better than I thought it was gonna. It took a while to get, once I learned that I think the fan was gonna be flat and straight enough to use, that's when I decided to strip it and go farther with it. So. And so that was now it's ready. It's an epoxy primer, and then I always do body work over epoxy primer. So this needs to be scuffed up and do the body work and run it through the process and paint. I need to do it to the roof of my building.
Big tank.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it. But anyway, that's it, unless you have some more questions.
One big battery charger.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing I learned since then, is that it doesn't take a lot of voltage and it doesn't take a lot of amps to actually do it. Actually, I've got a zinc plating kit from Eastwood, and it came with a battery pack, and I never used it because I thought, well, that's okay, I'll use a battery charger. And the battery pack plays way better than that battery charger.
Really?
You know?
Why do you think it overheated or was getting warm?
I don't know if I just had it. I mean, it ran 24 hours a day and finally overheated, I think, into the second day. So I don't know.
So you may have just had a tired battery charger.
Well, if you looked at it, it's probably as old as me. So, yeah, I don't know. But it really helped to add the two together. If I was going to do it again, I would hook up. I see some guys use automotive batteries, but they're usually 12 volts and 500 cranking amps, and you really don't need that kind of amperage. A rectifier is a perfect thing, and I learned that too. rectifier was when electricity came out, is what they call them. It's a power supply, that's all it is, and it's adjustable. And, they're pretty reasonable. I've found them on, Amazon for $23 for some of them. That would probably work fine. I don't want them to last, but you know, you can spend that or you can spend 700, you know, it's. But you can find some, this works. If you get a battery charger, it still works. Yes, sir.
You ever try sandblasting?
Not a wood panel.
I've been about 4 of them.
Oh,
It works good. You
Yeah.
just don't hit them straight on and a little bit lower pressure. And gives it a good bite for epoxy primer.
no.
A lot of people say, oh, you're gonna warp it and everything else. I've never had a problem. Look at
Yeah, I'd be extremely.
What's your
leery of
medium?
that.
Is it sand or is it what?
Sand, you know, mason sand, you buy sandblasted sand,
No, I know.
it's the same as mortar.
Yeah.
And they use real fine stuff
Yeah,
like
no,
that,
You're using sand, but you're shooting it at an angle.
right? And about
Well,
80
they-
pounds, you could use less than that, I guess.
There's water blasters out there that, you do mix an abrasive in with the water and say not a warpiece, but I've never monkeyed with any of that. I know how these hoods are and how easy they can get bad louvers in them, sleepy and screwed up. So I was leery about having mine media blasted. I talked to the blaster about 4 times before I let it do it. So no, I'll guarantee you that if I'm, that was, Vince,
Fred, what about that Model A hood that was dipped and in the process it formed that bubble on it? Have you learned anything about what happened there with your experience here?
no, other than that, you know, the metal was more layered. I mean, you know, if you look at all the tubing back then, it was seam tubing because it was rolled layers. And that's the only thing I can think of is that was formed in layers and those 2 layers were probably not hot enough when it was formed or something. Because he had a hood dipped chemically. I think it was probably the guy in Wade Bear, wasn't it, that used to do all the dipping?
Probably, I don't.
And when he got it back, he had a bubble right in the middle of the top panel. And he's got 2 of them in there, and they're was gonna try to use that wood panel, but you would actually probably have to cut and they weren't little, they were probably 1.5 inches long by 1 inch wide. You would probably have to cut straight through the hood and weld and patch it. So, you could probably find a better hood top, which we did. But- Yeah,
Fred, when Debbie and I were out in Atlantic City, we went to they had a boardwalk display of a tank about the size of that screen. And it was about 4 feet deep. They had parts of the Titanic that they had brought up and had them hooked up. And the tank was full of water and they mixed soda ash. To make it work.
yeah.
And they said that as soon as it came out of the ocean, they put it in regular water on the ship until they got on the shore and then put it in these tanks and had it hooked up and you could see it bubbling, the rust just bubbled. And they said, especially something that's cast iron, the salt gets right into that metal and it's the only way you can get rid of it is
Yeah.
the process you're doing.
I mean, they could have probably almost used ocean salt water as electrolyte because it just carry the current, does nothing else really. It's not doing anything other than carry the current well. So, but it is specific to what you do put in it because of like nickel plating is different. Especially at the level that a plater does it, but like I say, simple nickel plating solution was vinegar and Epsom salts. And all the salt does is increase the charge.
You know, if you'd taken a high school chemistry class on this project, you would have gotten an A.
Yeah, well, that's Vince, high school science teacher.
Yeah, good luck with the nickel plating. You said you mentioned a couple times like that. I nickel plate a couple things, you know, like a crank hole cover.
I haven't tried it, but Caswell's got, but I was thinking of it. I wasn't thinking about nickel plating, and there's a couple parts I needed to get the nickel off of. So you can reverse that, same as this, you're gonna reverse the electrodes and take the nickel off. I haven't tried it, I ended up not having to, but, it's, that one was, yeah, I say vinegar and Epsom salt's all he used. He was doing, saxophone keys. Went from one saxophone that had used the same keys, but one was nickel plated and the other saxophone was not. So he took a one from that one and stuck it in the solution. I didn't think it took. He used a battery charger. I probably took 5 minutes and the nickel was off and onto a brass pipe. And then you would just have to have a nickel, and you can buy all the nickel anodes, the zinc anodes, all that stuff's on eBay. It's really reasonable. So, I mean, if you make your own solution, it doesn't cost much to try it for small parts. The trick with nickel is if you want bright nickel, it's gotta be polished to the shine you want prior to plating.
I hear you say this panel's on a Buick.
Yeah.
Still working on a Buick in the first.
I've written all cars when I was in the industry. I don't know, because he talked me into it. That's a pretty neat car. We've got all the black sheet metal on, now we're trying to get all the rest of the sheet metal fitted. And then, well, I mean, that hood doesn't show how big the car is, but you work on a Model A, but everything on that car is just larger, just a bigger car.
It's a tank?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a chassis like a truck.
Yeah.
But a neat car.
So, one more question, not for taking off the rust, but all those things where you put a rod through, hook the top to the side. I've got some hood panels, you know, that are painted, ready to go. But I'm scared that when you put those together, you're gonna chip the paint and stuff on the.
Put a piece of sandpaper on all those hoods. Pretty fine grit, about a 320, and then just put it on a paint stick, and I take the paint off. And I always worry about.
Rust in them?
No. Now, if you've got epoxy underneath, that's a corrosion resistant primer and it won't crawl. And if you keep it, and they're tight, my Tom Sedan's been that way I did that in 01, I think I painted it. Showed it in 02, so, yeah, there's no sign of rust.
You just try to take the paint off the top coat, not the epoxy.
You can try that, but most of the time I hit bare metal. You know, they're not that even, you know.
I don't wiggle it.
But yeah, I always do that. I was in wheels, I got a stone burr that I run in all the aluminum wheels, they don't paint off, so they will lock down and stay tight and not chip paint. And when they're tight, they don't rust either.
I kind of worry about that too, on painted rims or whatever like that. You're gonna do all the work and everything, get it nice, and then you chip the damn paint with it.
Well, you can get air away from it, yeah, so that's why I stow them, so you don't chip the paint. But
Thank you.
it's,
Can we segue back to the mystery tool for just a second? We're circulating around the mystery tool. Bring that up. I think I know what it is.
Yeah, like.
Anybody else?
We looked it up.
Somebody go
Very early bicycle spoke wrench.
That's right.
That is-
No.
I said what?
Bicycle sport wrench. Makes sense.
I was wondering if you had the manufacturer's name and you had a patent number. Now I'm wondering if they don't have a database where you could track something down with the patent number. Or maybe the business is out of business now, but you could Google it, and maybe it was one too.
Right.
Oh, and it didn't work. I think it was Google that.
So what it says.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
The antique Dudley bicycle small nipple wrench tool, patent, May 29th, 94. You know, I've looked at what for information, that thing I couldn't find.
How'd you find that?
Great word.
You got it?
Last time, yeah, we got it, we got it.
I wouldn't have guessed
Nice
that.
job. Good find.
I often say that, what did we do before?
Yeah.
I mean, so easy to look up. So much stuff.
Just the internet.
Yeah,
Well, they lie though, too.
yeah. Well, you can't believe it all, but
You can find anything on the internet.
yeah. Well, that's all I've got.
Is it?
Set that.
what do we got for time? What is it? 8:30? 8:30? Yep, we're good. All right. Let's see now, I'm sorry, I had to step out back for a little bit. Did you get into any of the stuff that didn't work?
For rust removal?
Yeah,
Well, I talked about the Eastwood stuff I used.
Okay.
It worked, it just was.
nasty.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I didn't know, years ago, before I was doing the electrolysis, I tried the molasses. Any of you have tried the molasses?
It works good.
Well,
Takes a long time though.
takes a long time, stinks. I never got the stink out of the metal. And I know that there are some pieces that people have done that have disappeared in that solution.
Mike lost the carburetor.
That wasn't steel though, was it? Cast iron.
When you were doing molasses, didn't you have some bears visit your backyard?
I don't know. No, they had them out by the fence for a long time, and I did it when it was nice and warm and forgot about them actually for a while. I went out there and I took the covers off and something pulled the cover back down. I mean, it was alive in there. There was stuff growing in there. And like I had a bunch of wrenches and things in there, and that metal was slimy. I couldn't get the smell off my hands forever. So I didn't like it. The electrolysis worked great.
It does stink.
It stank, and you don't use cooking molasses either. What do you got?
Had a product called Apple.
Yeah.
And I found this on online. I was actually working on a 1926 Maytag winter wash. And the guy had used this. It comes in both liquid and it's like we were saying earlier, this stuff isn't real cheap, but I bought that Napa. And this is a gel, but I bought a quart of it. So it was just a liquid that you put your parts in, and you leave it in for 2 to 6 hours. The rust is gone. And again, this stuff too, it says that you can pour it down the drain when they're done. Sure. So.
I've got some of this. I have not tried it. But it was good for you.
Last tip. Electric.
I didn't hear the question.
Electricity hooked up to that, the molasses?
Any electricity hooked up to the plant? Just flat.
Put it in there, let it sit a long time.
One thing to remember, I mentioned that
Hydrogen was,
Hydrogen and beryllium.
yeah. Remember the Hindenburg was full of that stuff.
Yeah, that could be with you. You could get hydrogen and beryllium for some of the things you may attempt, and you got to bake it out. And I don't know, that's where you need to be a chemist and a metallurgist. Jerome, hang on.